Week 9 of the NFL season, we got to see plenty of upsets, some weird games, some really bad calls, and some prize performances from some people. Also, you do not want to be a quarterback ever for the Washington, formerly Redskins, now football team. I'll get into that a little bit more later on the show once we get to that Giants and football team recap. But of course, this is our Week 9 NFL recap show. My name is Ross Allen. Thank you very much for joining us today. Make sure if you're on YouTube to like and subscribe real quick, or just hit the download button on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, anywhere else you find a podcast from. We're there, and we appreciate you tuning in. So, besides Zozo, also, we got to talk about a few things. The Bucs, specifically, and a couple things. Maybe something related with little Jameis Winston. We remember that guy. Talk about some AFC stuff. Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow. And the Dolphins. But without further ado, we're going to, of course, end things with our power rankings. But we're going to start things with our Week 9 recap and breakdown. The first game we had on Thursday night, it was the Packers taking on the Niners in San Francisco and or Santa Clara. And it really, this is just me, it seems like the Niners' first half of the season has been extremely home heavy. I mean, that hasn't helped them though, because they get beat down on Thursday Night Football with it got ugly real quick. This was quite the opposite. I mean, if you remember, the last time we saw these two teams compete against each other, this was earlier this calendar year in the NFC Championship game, where the Packers thoroughly got ran over and ran out of the stadium. This is quite the opposite of that game. Also, doesn't help, really feel bad for those 49er fans. Literally, no offensive starter that played on Thursday or that played in the Super Bowl played on Thursday for the San Francisco 49ers. Yeah, guys, I know plenty Niner fans. I know a lot of them that listen to the show. We love you. And my heart goes out to you. But the Rodgers-Adams duo is really just stronger than ever. Rodgers, 305 yards, 4 touchdowns. Rodgers' revenge tour is still on track. Then also Adams, 10 catches, almost 180 yards in a touchdown. And it's just so hard because the Packers are a really good team. But on the other hand, the Niners have the talent when healthy. They have the coaching staff. But there's no hope for them right now. And it's time to move on to next season. Also, if you missed it, check out on YouTube right now the segmented clip of it, or our Twitter at Fourth Long Radio, or you can also look at our full last show of our Week 8 NFL recap, talking about Matty Ice going to the Niners next season. Listen to that last show if you haven't for a little more information on that. Next game we need to talk about is the Broncos at the Atlanta Falcons, with the Broncos falling in this one 27-24. And the crazy thing is that the Falcons actually held on to a 3-score lead this game. I think that might be the biggest surprise of the entire week. But what it comes down to is the Broncos' lack of offense in the first half haunts them again. You can't be the Broncos and keep on being able to expect to come back from 21, 18, 24 point deficits. It's just not possible to do that consistently. It's not going to happen. But the Falcons, even though they didn't lose this game from being up 3 scores, they let it get really close again. I'm sure those Falcons fans almost put some stuff through their TVs watching on Sunday. And the crazy thing is that Drew Lock kind of rivaled Matt Ryan in this game. They each had 3 touchdowns. Drew Lock with 2 through the air and 1 on the ground. Matt Ryan with 3 through the air. And both of them had 1 interception. And also, Drew Lock had more passing yards than Matt Ryan. Is that something to look into? I don't know. Do we need to speculate? Is Drew Lock better than Matt Ryan? Hold the horses. Probably not yet. He might be. But if you're the Broncos, you also had Albert O go down, torn ACL out for the season. The Broncos can't stop getting injured. And then, but shining light for the Broncos, Jerry Jeudy. You might remember, really good pick. Really talented receiver, Alabama rookie this year. A lot of people talked about the about him being the best route runner, at least of his rookie class. Some people think in the league right now. And he's been iffy this season. He's had the problem with drops. But he really showed out and had the best game of his career so far. 7 catches, 125 yards, 1 touchdown, and also made one Falcons defender look like he had no idea what the hell was going on. Next game, though, I think I'm willing to call this the biggest surprise of the week, with the Seahawks going to Buffalo and losing on the road 44-34. And the Bills get a surprising and a big win over the Seattle Seahawks. Josh Allen, he gets off the schneid. Nice 4 total touchdown game, over 400 yards passing, doing it for his grandparent. And then and also after the fact, seeing all those donations to the hospital and $17 donations. Football is such a great sport with that stuff. And God bless those Buffalo fans, because either you're putting yourselves through tables, whether they're just normal or on fire, or you're donating to the Children's Hospital. Phenomenal work. Then also on the other hand, though, you had Russell Wilson. 2 interceptions this game. That backfield, that defensive backfield of the Bills might be finally starting to come together. That defense as a whole has been underperforming this year when there's a very highly touted one before the season started. It's good to see them really start to play well. And that's really going to push that Bills team into the playoffs and get as high as possible. Still probably going to win that division. It's really just who gets the top 4. And then you had the lack of a secondary. We've been talking about this for the whole season now. I kind of want to say is that the Seahawks, their offense is really good. Sure, they got that going for them. But they hardly have a pass rush over on the other side of the football. They don't have a defensive backfield that can really step up to a good passing team like the Bills. So that haunts him and that bites him in the butt this game, and that's ultimately why they lose. They're going to have to. It's weird. I'm really surprised they didn't trade for anyone. Really surprised they didn't get anything out of the trade deadline. So now it's just they felt confident with what they had. So what's going to have to happen for the rest of the season is that their offense is just going to have to score 40 points a game if they want to win most of their games. I don't know if that's sustainable. I think that was an awful choice. We'll see how that plays out for them. Next game is the Bears going to Tennessee and losing 17-24. The Bears now lose their 3rd straight. You remember when they were undefeated? Y'all remember that? It feels like a year ago at this point. And we were all calling them the imposter. And that's exactly what we've been seeing so far. The Bears are who we thought they were, which are just pretenders at this point. And on the other hand, you had the Titans being able to break a 2-game skid. Remember a couple weeks ago, they were undefeated. Steelers versus Titans, battle of the undefeateds. The Steelers get a good win over that Titans team, and then the Titans go on and lose another one last week. And now they're able to break that 2-game skid, get back in the win column, and watch out in the AFC South, because that Colts team is really biting at the heels of the Tennessee Titans. I think and the weird thing about this game, though, too, is that the Titans are playing a really good game through 3 quarters, and then they ended up doing nothing in the 4th, and then the Bears scored 17 in the 4th, and make it a closer game than it should have been. Those might have been just garbage time stuff. Might have been the Titans just trying to play a little lighter in the 4th, kind of taking some plays off. That's something they're going to fix. You can't give up 17 points in 1 quarter, especially to the Bears. But on the other hand, you had the Bears, Nick Foles, best game of the season so far. 330 yards, a couple touchdowns. He stays out of the interception column, which has been the problem bugging him this season. And so that's good to see. If you're the Bears, you're still fighting the Packers for a division title this season. And you're going to have, obviously, your quarterback is going to play well if you really want to contend with the Packers. This is a good sign in a loss, though. But obviously, losing 3 straight is not going to do it for you. Next game was the Ravens at the Colts. Ravens win this one 24-10. I know I just mentioned the Colts. Kind of a secret of this game. Maybe they can move on. That's it, though. But it's also the Ravens, too, because the Ravens, man, their defense is just so damn good. If you have them in fantasy, you're doing well every single week, because not only do they limit their opponents to low scores, They also score a defensive touchdown. It seems like half the games. They got another one this week. 55-yard scoop and score in the first quarter. Really just setting the tone for the game with that one. And then they also got some more points with the interception. But was it really was it really an interception? I have yet to see one person, even whether I talk to them or whether it be on Twitter, and we all know Twitter has some questionable takes. We'll say that at the least, be as diplomatic as possible with that one. And I still didn't see anyone disagreeing with this call. I still have no idea how this Marcus Peters interception, not only, it was called incomplete on the field, and then they review it. And then they overturn the call to an interception, which is the... I guess all I can say is that NFL officiating is really at its peak right now. Peak form, looking real good. And this is the best we can expect from them. And we really shouldn't be getting mad. We shouldn't be surprised about a call like this going down because it's nothing new at this point. And the NFL just has an officiating problem like they have been for the last 5, 10, 15, 20, their whole, I'd say at least the last decade, man. It's been tough. And then it was a tough game. Defense. You win the game with the defense. Lamar Jackson running wild when he's keeping the ball on the ground. But the ball through the air for both teams, it really came into question with their poor quarterback play. Yeah, Lamar limited through there, only 173 yards, no touchdowns, luckily no interceptions, but that's still not going to cut it. Then Philip Rivers, 1 week he's throwing 3 touchdowns and 300 yards. The next week he's throwing for 200 yards in an interception and no touchdowns. But if you're the Colts, you knew exactly that's what you were going to get from him. And you knew that you're going to have a good run game to support Philip Rivers. Philip Rivers is not going to win the game by himself. And you're not going to win the game completely through the air with Philip Rivers. Unless it's at 10 to 20% of the time. But you cannot depend on that. Obviously, that showed out here. Next game we had, actually, why this wasn't the biggest... If the Panthers won this game, I call this the biggest surprise of the week. But they don't. And the Chiefs barely escape another really close game. The Chiefs' offense, it's really good. We all know that. It's obvious. I'm not saying anything new here. I'm not saying anything breathtaking. I'm not saying anything controversial. But that defense is still an issue, and that defense is going to lose in football games. Patrick Mahomes, sure, another almost 400-yard passing game, another 4 touchdowns. He might have taken over Russell Wilson in the MVP talks. Might have with this week. But at the same time, their offense and their team is so damn unbalanced, man. That offense is so unbalanced. Right now this season, they're averaging about 300 yards through the air a game. But on the ground, they're only getting about 100 yards a game. A 3-to-1 ratio right there for all you non-math majors. It's okay. This is what we do on the show. I love my viewers. I look out for you. I don't make you think with math because no one wants to do that. And this is really going to come back to haunt them, whether it be later in the season when the weather gets bad, whether it be in the playoffs when you're playing in really cold conditions in bad weather, especially there in Kansas City. Probably going to get some snow games because the Chiefs are 100% going to be a playoff team, and you may very well get some snow games late in the playoffs or even early in the playoffs because Kansas City gets damn cold. And you need a run game to win those. Sure, yeah, Patrick Mahomes, the greatest talent in the NFL right now, a $500 million quarterback. Sure, he's really good. We're not going to deny that. But at the same time, you can't just rely on him because heaven forbid he has a bad game. Heaven forbid they do something like the Seahawks and give up 44 points, and Patrick Mahomes can't stop that. We saw what happened against the Raiders, man. The Raiders, okay? They need to fix this. They need to somehow do something on their team. They can't add anyone now, kind of like the Seahawks. You can't add any new talent to that team through trades, and there's almost no one on the free agency market. And that offense needs to become more balanced if they really want to see long-term success. But then the Panthers, let's talk about the Panthers real quick because, of course, they played this game. The Panthers offense did really well against, like I said, that lackluster defense. Bridgewater, Christian McCaffrey in his return, and Curtis Samuel all played well, man. I mean, Ted Bridgewater, a few hundred yards, couple touchdowns, making up for last season. Thank you, Teddy. I appreciate you. I'm trying to bend you. I'm trying to talk well about you. You got last week. You kind of leave a crappy game. Now you come back and you prove me a little bit more right this week. For that, I appreciate you. Christian McCaffrey, he had a touchdown in his return, had about 70 yards on the ground as well. And Curtis Samuel, 9 catches, over 100 yards, and a touchdown. Even though, I mean, honestly, if you had anyone, whether it be on the Panthers or the Chiefs this week in fantasy football, hats off to you because, damn, did you get some points this weekend from that game. Next game, we had the Lions at the Vikings. And don't look now, the Vikings are on their first winning streak of the season. A whole 2 games. The Vikings might be getting hot, though, man. They have the talent. Their defense kind of showed up a little bit better this game. They followed up the huge win over the Packers last week. Another good win over a decent Lions football team. That Lions team is not bad. They are decent, and also NFL. Everyone's good. But Dalvin Cook, man. What kind of season is he having? We keep on talking fantasy football. And then I know a couple people that have Dalvin Cook. And they are... They're not doing too bad this season as a result. Another 200-yard rushing game. Another multiple rushing touchdown game. Dalvin Cook is just on a whole other level. I don't even, what the hell got into him? He's really just putting this whole team on his back and is running with it. And then also, we want to look at the quarterbacks. The quarterbacks switched roles this weekend. What I mean by that is you had Matt Stafford, let's be honest. Matt Stafford, Kirk Cousins. Who would you rather have? Would you rather have the most overpaid quarterback in the league right now? Or would you rather have the most underrated quarterback in the league right now, Matthew Stafford? 9 times out of 10, I'm taking Matt Stafford. But this week, not going to do that. Kirk Cousins, a few touchdowns right there. Matt Stafford, touchdown to 2 interceptions. Normally, you see the interception problem for Kirk Cousins, not Matt Stafford as much. But hey, can't be great every week. And as I alluded to earlier in the show, talking about the Washington name redacted, we had the Giants at the football team, with the Giants winning a close one, 23-20. We had the Giants pretty much just riding Graham Gano and his amazing golden leg and a singular Jones touchdown. And what really killed Washington this game is their 5 turnovers. Hey, I know, I kind of know what I'm talking about here, but am I wrong to say that if you turn the ball over 5 times in one game, you might be having a bit of an issue? And I professionally do not think that most teams are going to be able to win football games when they turn the ball over 5 times. That might be a problem. That might be a thing to look back at this game and think, hey, that might have been the downfall for the Washington football team. Just putting it out there. Just putting it out there. Okay. Just give you something to think about as a possibility. And what I really want to talk about, though, is, like I said, no quarterback should ever play for Washington again because nothing good happens. The only thing that happens is broken and badly damaged legs and possibly ruined careers. Let's look at the list now. Just an absolutely compounding list. Going back decades, of course, the OG of the Washington quarterback leg curse is what I'm officially deeming it. If you have a better name, let me know by adding us on Twitter, replying in the YouTube comments, or best of all, leaving us a 5-star review with your name on Apple Podcasts. But we start off, of course, with Joe Theismann with that really, 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 really bad broken leg, like double breaks or whatever, ending his career. Now, of course, we had a couple of seasons ago, Alex Smith literally having the same exact Joe Theismann injury on the same team, on the same yard line, I think against the same opponent too. Something really creepy with that. And then Alex Smith almost dies as a result from that. But luckily he's back on the field. But he had that happen to him. Going back a little bit more, if you want to remember, in RG3, a guy that looked really promising, damages his knee. Coaches keep him in the game. Ends up being a torn ACL. Ends up being, let's be honest, it ruined his career. It really did. He had a future, and now he's just a backup. He's a backup on a really good team. But he could have been the starter for a long longer if the Washington curse didn't catch up to him. And then, remember, after Alex Smith, a few weeks after Alex Smith, Colt McCoy breaks his leg. And now, most recently, this week, Kyle Allen's ankle turned away that no ankle should ever turn. And that's broken. He gets carted off the field. So, this, you can't make this up. I mean, earlier this season, Jalen and I believe it's episode 53 of the Fourth Line podcast, we talked about that MetLife Stadium is haunted. You check out the video there, or you go back to that episode over on our channel. But now there's a new curse in the NFL, and it's in Washington. It's that East Coast, man. That East Coast is cursed. And I mean, I know the Giants are NFC East, but that NFC East division is just so bad for all the reasons you could ever think of. Moving on, though, Texans at the Jags, a nice little AFC South matchup with the Jags losing a close one. Texans edging them out 27-25. And it's the long ball that really does it for the Houston Texans. Who needs a methodical, drive down the field? Who needs a balanced offense in terms of rushing and passing yards? Who needs any of that? Who needs these little chipping plays where you get 4, 5, 6 yards of play, occasionally get past 10 yards? Who needs any of that when you can get touchdowns on the back of a 57 and 77-yard touchdown pass? Hey, sometimes it just works. And then the question, though, is, what is up with the Jags and out of nowhere good rookie quarterback performances? Of course, last year we were all taken aback by Minshew Mania. And now this week, we got Jake Luton. Man, I don't have a good name for it. We got some Jake Jams, some Luton Luck. That's what we're going to call it. We're going to call it the Luton Luck. If you have something about it, like I said, just let us know. I would love to see what you guys think about this one. But Jake Luton, the 6th-round pick from this year's draft out of Oregon State, throws for 300 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. And he already has a better deep ball than Gardner Minshew. Who would have thought that we'd be getting some quarterback controversy between Gardner Minshew and Jake Luton? But that's exactly what we have on our hands right now. I can't wait to see what Doug Marrone, that moron, does with this. He's probably going to ruin it and ruin both of them because that's just how talented of a coach he is. And the Texans, of course, along with the Jags, still 0 chance in the division. And to put the cherry on the top, to add insult to injury, to put a little salt and lemon juice in the wound for the Texans, is that they may have moved on from it, but the legend of Bill O'Brien still lives on because the Texans' current 7th overall draft pick belongs to the Miami Dolphins. God bless you, Houston. I'm so sorry. Unless you're Astros fan, then I have no remorse for you, and you get exactly what you deserve, exactly what's going on right now, you piece of crap. Next game, we had the Raiders at the Los Angeles Chargers, with the Raiders winning a very close one, 31-26, and the Chargers, man. We're talking about feeling bad for some teams. Feeling bad for the Niners. I mean, the Vikings should be a little better. I feel bad for Detroit Lions fans, always. I feel bad for Browns fans a lot of the time, too. Now they're getting a little cocky, so my pity for them has gone down. But the overall feeling still remains. And I'm really just starting to feel bad for the Chargers, whether it be the giant losses from injuries every single season that always happen no matter what they do, or just not being able to win football games. 6 losses are all determined by 24 points combined. So you're losing the game on average by 4 points. So every single game they've lost has been a 1-score game, and that just has to be absolutely heartbreaking. And now, it sounds really specific, but this is what happened. They have now lost back-to-back games on the last play of the game by official review. Let's just take a minute. Moment of silence for the Chargers fans. All 6 of them. All right, that's all they deserve. I really, honestly do feel bad for them. And now the Raiders offense, Sal. They might be legit. The Raiders offense might be legit. I mean, it's nothing spectacular. It's nowhere near like the Chiefs or Seahawks or any of those teams. But they're good. It's a good offense they have right there, averaging about 27 points a game, close to 400 yards per game. That's going to win you a lot of football games. And they're not doing it in the prettiest way, but they're winning football games. And they're really looking like a potential playoff team right now. We'll see. I mean, it is the Raiders, so we'll see if they even can hold on to success for longer than a few games at a time. Hey, but they might, just putting it out there. And, of course, a little last statement from this. Justin Herbert's still good. 300 yards, a couple touchdowns. And he's still one of the best rookies in the game right now. He's one of the best quarterbacks overall in the league right now. And that's no stretch of the imagination right there. Next game, we had the Steelers at Jerry's World playing over there in Dallas. And the Steelers, I'll call this one an escape too, 24-19. And shocker, is something that we all kind of should have expected, is that the Steelers played down to their opponent again. I would say Mike Tomlin's probably the most underrated coach in the league right now. But at the same time, it seems like his team always just never plays the way they should. They always play down to their opponents no matter how bad they are, especially since the Cowboys. They suck. And the Cowboys were leading this game until through the third quarter. The Steelers were down 19-9 going to the fourth. They win off a 15-point fourth quarter, but it should not have been this close, especially when you're playing a quarterback that no one even knows the name of over there on the Cowboys, okay? Should not be able to do this, especially with that really good defense. I mean, it wasn't defense to blame anyway. It was that offense that was just anemic for the first 3 quarters. Big Ben, he finishes strong with a decent game, 300 yards, a few touchdowns. But also, he has a possible knee injury to go along with his placement onto the COVID list. So, can we see the return of either the reindeer or the goat, Duck Hodges? I think we might see that soon. And the Steelers, that's going to be a problem for you. That 0 in the loss column might be a risk. And the question you have to ask them now is, how worried should the Steelers be about this football game? And my answer to that is that they should be not as worried as some people might think, because you have no excuse to play this poorly against this Cowboys team, but at the same time, it's their culture now, whether you like it or not, it's their culture to play close games no matter what they do, and that battle-hardened team might help them later down the road. Obviously, they should not have played a game like this. Obviously, it was a poor performance from them, but they shouldn't be super worried about this. I believe that the Steelers will still be fine going on into week 10 and on. And now, a really sneaky and really good game, and I would say it was the best game of the week over down there in Miami, Florida, over there in the Red Sea, in the desert. You go from hot and humid to hot and just extremely dry. You had the Dolphins going to the Cardinals and winning a very close and very competitive and a very good game against the very good Arizona Cardinals. And it was this late fourth quarter. Ain't this just sort of a theme for this week? A late fourth quarter comeback propels the Dolphins over the Cardinals, scored 10, coming back from down 10. And it's the single turnover from the Cardinals that proved costly. Now, luckily, they weren't doing the whole football team BS with the 5 turnovers. Obviously, that's going to lose you football games. 1, normally you're able to win, except when this 1 turnover is a first quarter fumble return. That's going to hurt. And then Dolphins fans and NFL fans around the country, be happy and be excited for the young talent we are seeing there blossom over in Miami, because Tua looked good in his second start of the season. Of course, last week in his first start of his career, he looked A lot of people thinking that Ryan Fitzpatrick should still be the starter. That was obviously the wrong answer. It was the wrong answer then. Even more apparent that's the wrong answer now. But it was nice to see Tua, 250 yards, a couple touchdowns against a good Cardinals defense. That's a really good performance. And that's something that that's really going to build confidence from. And he could carry that on into his next start next week. And the defenses might have some cause for concern, but the offense is so high powered. And that's just kind of the thing we're seeing in the NFL now. Who needs a really good defense? The 15-16 Broncos were an anomaly. No one's going to do that anymore. No one's going to have arguably the best defense in NFL history with one of the crappiest offenses in NFL history to go along with it. That's just not it's not the meta anymore. That's not what teams do. The teams build offense and make a decent defense. And that's kind of an example of what the Dolphins Cardinals are. Although I do believe the Dolphins have the stronger defense in this this matchup, and the Dolphins can really make something out of that defense. The Dolphins are going to be good for a good bit of time now. Really good time to be a Dolphins fan. Now our Sunday night game. This is really something. I couldn't believe my eyes when I was watching this, to be honest. Of course, going back to the first week of the NFL season, that very first Monday night game, we had the Saints at home against the Bucs, and the Saints win by a couple scores with that one, get a good win over the Bucs, and the Bucs kind of have some question marks from that. And through the following weeks, the Bucs have kind of put most of those questions and debates to bed. They've been really good offensively, and they've been good defensively. Whereas the Saints have a lot more questions on their team, especially on the offense, and that defensive secondary is still a headache, and it's still a suspect part of the team. So most experts around the country ditch their faith in the Saints. That's just not a thing anymore, especially for Drew Brees. And everyone was picking the Bucs. Everyone. So how did the Saints respond to that? They go out and they absolutely beat the living hell out of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in their home stadium, 38-3, with a late field goal in the fourth quarter for the Bucs being the only points they get. Breeze, hey, shaking off the haters. Don't look now. He had a 4-touchdown game, looking really good. And although he's not pushing the ball super far down the field, he's not making those little dink and dunk 5-yard passes anymore. He's getting medium range passes, and he's looking better than he has over the past few weeks. And I think he can only get better, especially with that Saints offense returning to health. But on the other hand, yeah, the GOAT, I'll put that in quotes for if you guys aren't watching, because I don't believe that. And he goes out and throws 3 interceptions for his second multi-interception game this season, and he suffers the worst loss of his career. Where are the people trying to call this guy MVP last week or over the last couple weeks? Where are those people? Because obviously, they're wrong. And he's not the MVP. Far none. It's only going to be between Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes unless something really weird happens. But, man, and now what the only problem now is that the Bucs are likely out of the division now. With the Saints, I mean, look at that NFC South, okay? You have the Falcons, you have the Saints, you have the Bucs. It is really the only teams that could win that. And now you have the Bucs get their series swept. I mean, the two favorites obviously were the Saints and the Bucs. And now the Bucs lose both those games against the Saints. Those are huge. So the Saints, it is their division to lose now about halfway through the season. And you got to ask, what went wrong for the Bucs? You want to know what went wrong? Is that Tom Brady might not be the ideal quarterback for the offense, and he's just not the guy. We'll talk about that in a moment. The last game of the season, we had the Patriots at the Jets, and man, I was saying, just imagine if the Jets' first win of the season came against the Patriots on Monday Night Football. And for I would say about 95% of that game, it looked like that was actually going to be our reality. The Jets were leading this game almost all the way through, man. They were beating the hell out of the Patriots for a good bit. The Patriots looking really sloppy. The Jets actually looking like they could be a real football team. But of course, and they lose. They lose. Last minute field goal, 47 seconds left. Yeah, Nick Folk put it out from 51 yards. Not an easy kick, but he gets the job done for the Patriots. The Patriots survive and they move on, whereas the Jets still winless on the season and move to 0-9. But positive news, at least, is that even though they lost, the Jets still win here. Even when they lose, they win. That's how good they are, because they are still the top team for Trevor Lawrence. And at the end of the season, that's all that matters. Or in some sick, twisted 2020 kind of scenario, we have the NFL owners agreeing that if a good amount of regular season games get canceled, that they will be expanding the playoff seeding to 8 teams from each conference. So games get canceled. Jets win some games, maybe win 6. Although that's a huge stretch, they'll get lucky to win 1 or 2 at this point. Imagine if we see the Jets in the playoffs. Oh my God! If the Jets make the playoffs this season, I think I'll quit. I think I'll just quit watching football and being a football fan in general, because I would have seen everything at that point, and there's not a reason to watch. And the takeaway from this, you have Cam Newton having his best game since COVID, almost 300 yards passing, a couple solid rush touchdowns. But at the end of the day, damn it, Joe Flacco is elite, and you will never be able to tell me otherwise. Joe Flacco is elite, almost 300 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. He had a little bit of interception, but of course, it was an elite looking interception. That's all that matters. Joe Flacco, once again, still elite. And then also, he passes Joe Montana for 20th of the all-time passing record. So, is he a Hall of Famer? That's going to be a fun debate to have in a season or 2 from now. I cannot wait for that one. Well, that's going to do it for our NFL Week 9 recap. Moving on into our next segment now, the funnest one that you guys are luckily all been loving, and I really do appreciate that. This is our buy or sell segment. So if you've watched over the last couple weeks, you know exactly how this goes. But if you're new, really appreciate you. Please stick around. But so what happens? 5 statements, and it's whether you buy that statement or you sell that statement. Of course, with all these, let us know, whether it be on Twitter, Instagram, in the comments of the YouTube video segment, or also of the full show, or also 5-star review, Apple Podcasts. Really appreciate you. But the first statement, we have a couple of Buck-centric ones with this one. And the first statement is going to be that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the most overrated team in the league. And you bet that I am going to buy that all damn day. Because they're just, sure, they got talent on offense. They got decent defense. But when it comes to big games like this, I mean, this was a really, really bad loss. And might be just recency bias for my opinion on this. It might be. That's a real thing. But I don't see any other team that could be as much highly touted and as talented as they should be that's been disappointing like this. I mean, what you want to look at the Niners? No, you can't, because their talent isn't even playing in games. You want to look at the Rams? Maybe, not really. You can't really see an argument there. If you want to look at, we're talking overrated, and there's no other team in the league that can really stand up to them. Maybe the Chiefs. Maybe you're a person that thinks that the Chiefs are overrated. Maybe you think the Seahawks are overrated. Maybe you think the Steelers are overrated. But to me, they do not come close to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I am buying that statement all day. And the next one, too, is that this is something that we've been talking about, especially my co-host Alex, for these NFL shows. What we've been talking about, probably for the last 4 or 5 weeks now, is that, and kind of this whole thing, and the statement number 2, the Bucs would be better with Jameis Winston. And I think this is a fun one to talk about, but I am going to buy this statement as well, because you got to look at how the team works. And the thing with Tampa Bay, and the thing with Jameis Winston, sure, he had 30 interceptions. He gave us an almighty 30 for 30 season. But at the same time, 30 touchdowns, and a lot of times they weren't too bad in those two. But I mean, you got with guys like Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. I mean, depending on how good he is, didn't really see much of him, but depending on how much of a role Antonio Brown takes, those are all some big time deep threats. And those are guys that you can just throw the ball up to, and they're going to go get it. And who better to do that? Who better to sling a ball up and say a prayer than Jameis Winston? I feel like Jameis Winston's just a better fit for this Tampa Bay offense, for this Bruce Arians offense. Tom Brady worked great, obviously, in the Bill Belichick offense. That's not an overstatement or understatement. That's just fact. But the Jameis Winston, he's just, especially with the eye surgery too. Eye surgery really played a role. He was perfect in relief in their Saints Bucs game. I do believe that Jameis Winston would be a better quarterback in this offense. Now, I'm not saying that Tom Brady is necessarily a bad quarterback in this offense. All I'm saying is that Jameis Winston will be better in their current offense, especially with Gronk. That really might suit Jameis well, especially with the better run game too with Leonard Fournette. Jameis Winston with his Bucs team would be better. Now, the next statement is another one that kind of was brought to light this week, and that is that the AFC is going to win the Super Bowl. And like the first two statements, I am going to buy this. This is a really good one. The AFC, they're just so damn dominant, and this might be a toss-up or like a little gimme for if I'm going to buy or sell this one. But it's so much better. The Saints are the best team in the NFC South. Packers, best team in the NFC North. I mean, let's run through the division leaders, all besides the NFC East, because that doesn't matter. They all suck. The Seahawks, good on offense, bad defense. Packers, good offense, decent defense. They've been struggling. They struggled against the Vikings, that showed, and they beat up on the bad Niners team. They still have a little bit to prove there. The Saints, they've been iffy this season, and luckily they're on a 5-game win streak, but in those 5 games they've been close, and a lot of their team has been brought into question. I do not have a complete confidence in that Saints team. But then on the other hand, the Titans looking good in that AFC South, the Colts being good rivals to them. Of course, you have the Bills are looking like a really good, well-rounded team, especially when Josh Allen performs. The Chiefs, they're the Kansas City Chiefs. They have Patrick Mahomes. They have a very, very, very good offense. That's always going to make them a favorite. And also, they are the reigning Super Bowl champions. Then AFC North, Steelers and the Ravens, whether you have a really good defensive Ravens team with a solid offense behind them, or you have the last undefeated team in the league right now with the Steelers, with a really good defense and a good offense. I am 100% confident. I'd be willing to bet, like, if I had the money, I dropped $10K on this right now that the the AFC would be won by, or the Super Bowl would be won by an AFC team, 100% buying that one. Now, fourth statement, Justin Herbert is better than Joe Burrow. This is coming to a little bit more talk now, especially with Justin Herbert being thoroughly impressive this season and just doing really good stuff with that Chargers team. And so a lot of people are asking now, who's a better rookie quarterback? Who would you rather build your team around? Who is really going to be the best one when it's all said and done? And just real quick, this rookie quarterback class is looking phenomenal. Joe Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa, Justin Herbert, all very, very solid quarterbacks. And no matter what, you're going to get a good quarterback out of them. But who's the best? It's not Tua. Sorry, not Tua. At least not yet. It's going to be between Joe and Justin. You have Joe right now looking rock solid this season with a bad Bengals team. On the other hand, you have Justin Herbert with a good-looking, better-looking offense and defense with them. Of course, the funny thing is that the Chargers actually have the worst, the worst offensive line statistically than contrary to popular belief. than what the Bengals over have there trying to protect Joe Burrow. And then right now, Justin Herbert, if you just look at stat lines, Justin Herbert has the better stats. Overall, 67% completion percentage, 2,100 yards, 17 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. To Joe Burrow's 67%, 2,200, but it's at touchdown to interception with the 11-5. And right now, though, going back to the original statement, Justin Herbert is better than Joe Burrow. It's really close. It's a really, really, really close one. But I'm going to have to sell this statement, at least of right now. Sure, both the quarterbacks, really promising future. Both of them definitely franchise quarterbacks. It's not that Justin Herbert is clearly worse than Joe Burrow. Just right now, from what I've seen, it's the eye test. I'd rather have Joe Burrow long term than Justin Herbert. And I take that lightly, but it's not like I'm saying either one sucks. I'm saying Justin Herbert sucks. But as of right now, rather have Joe Burrow. I'm selling this statement. Last one we have is that the Miami Dolphins are a playoff team. If you remember, talk about this. I highlighted this last week, give myself a little pat on the back. But earlier, when it was still the off season, when we didn't know what the hell was going to happen with this season, and a little bit after the draft the draft era time, I said that the Dolphins were going to be a playoff team in 5 years. I've now changed my statement to them being a Super Bowl contender in 5 years and a playoff team now. I am buying this statement full on. The Dolphins are 5-3 right now. They're on a 4-game win streak. They have a good offense, especially with Tua looking good right now. They have a talented defense to back them up. And look, they're only a game and a half behind the Bills in that division. And the other teams you got to look, the Raiders over there are 5-3 as well. Patriots not going to be a playoff team. Jets obviously not. And then you have the Ravens, you have the Browns, you have the Titans, and the Colts around them. So the 7 playoff team is really going to come to play right now. If you had to say 7 teams for the AFC, right now it's going to be Bills, Chiefs, Steelers, Titans. And then the next 3 are going to be the Dolphins, the Ravens, and then you're going to have... It's going to be between the Raiders and the Colts, I feel like. That one we'll see. I don't trust the Raiders as much. I would say Colts at this point. But the Dolphins are going to be a playoff team this year. 100% believe it. And hell, they might even win a game or 2 in this postseason. Do not be surprised if that happens. But like I said, I am buying that statement all day. And like I said at the beginning, let us know what you guys think. We would love to hear your opinion on all of this. And now, to cap off this week's recap, let's look at our NFL power rankings. Looking back at week 9, from 5-1, I had the Ravens, Seahawks, Bucs, Chiefs, and Steelers. On the cusp right there, though, if you want to remember, I had the Bills, Saints, and the Packers. So let's get into week 10 with the number 5 team in the NFL right now. You're going to have the Buffalo Bills. They made appearances a couple of weeks ago. Then they lost to the Chiefs. And then they had another loss. And then they dropped out, of course. But the Bills are the 5th best team in the league right now. And that offense, when you have Josh Allen able to put 4 touchdowns on the board, damn, he's good. And damn, he's really going to lead that team. Especially helps that your team gets 2 interceptions, of course, too. Well-rounded team right there. Now, moving back up into the top 5 as well, the Saints make their return to the top 5 of the power rankings, moving into number 4. And then it was just, the thing was, because last week, of course, the Bucs were the number 3 team. And then if you're going to blow out and absolutely demolish the previous number 3 team by 35 points, damn right you're going to be in the top 5. And I'm 100% confident with having them back in number 4. Number 3. Last week, the Ravens were at number 5. This week, they're moving up 2 spots to number 3. Solid win over a good Colts team. And also, it doesn't help that both the Seahawks and the Ravens get kicked out this week, so the Ravens also are able to jump them from there. Number 2 team and the number 1 team now. And this was a bit of a tough one. It was a little tough last week. It was a little tough the week before. And there's been some changes this week. It really came down to who had the best looking performance of the week. And that's why the Steelers drop a spot to the number 2 spot in the power rankings. They should not have that, like I was saying in our review of them, they should not have had that close of a game against the Cowboys. And if you really want to be a good Super Bowl contender, if you want to be the best team in the league, you can't play down to your opponents like that. The Steelers are your number 2 team in the league. And of course, that means that the Chiefs, that extremely high-powered offense with a lackluster and a little bit suspect defense, is the best team in the league. And like I said, let me know what you guys think about this. We'll love to see what your top 5s look like because a lot of people's look different. There's a little controversy in this, whether it be a toss-up. Who's better, Saints or Bills? Who's better, Chiefs or Steelers? And do you really, or do the Packers deserve to be a top 5 team as well? And do the Bucs deserve and the Seahawks deserve to get kicked out of the top 5? Let us know. With that being said, that's going to wrap it for us this week. Thank you very much for sticking with us to the end of the episode. Of course, you can see I'm rocking right now, but it's getting cold up here in Boise, Idaho. We got our first snowfall of the week, so of course, it's sweatshirt, sweater, and long sleeve weather. So I have, of course, the premium 4th and long hoodie right here. We have a crew neck over on the website as well. We got long sleeves, super comfy. It's that felt inside, so it really just feels absolutely amazing. And we thank you so much for the ones who buy merch, the ones who contribute to the show and donations over on our Anchor page, and really do love you guys. But with that being said, check out our other stuff. Just dropped a really, really good interview with UFC fighter Justin James with a story that is straight from a movie that you have to hear to believe. Go check that out. Go check out Week 8 if you want. And go check out the rest of our content. Really good stuff. A lot of shows up last week. And with that being said, we will catch you in the next one.